Before we get started today with our look at Wes Anderson's film Rushmore, take just a moment and make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. It won't make you a millionaire. Heck, it won't even get you a free coffee, but it sure does go a long way in the algorithms. And for that, I'd appreciate it. Now, let's get started. Meet Max Fisher, part-time student, full-time egomaniac. He's a 15-year-old Renaissance wannabe who's president of every club at his fancy prep school except the How to Actually Pass Your Classes club. When he falls for a beautiful first-grade teacher, yes, first grade, Max sparks a love triangle with a lonely, rich, middle-aged industrialist who's old enough to be his father, and probably should be. There's sabotage, bad plays, bees, and Bill Murray looking like he wants to fight a child. It's like Dead Poets Society crashed into the Royal Tenenbaums, with a soundtrack that's cooler than you'll ever be. And now for 5 fast facts about the making of the film Rushmore. Fact 1. The film was inspired by Wes Anderson and Owen Wilson's own high school experiences. While the story of Max Fisher is wildly eccentric, the roots are personal. Anderson and Wilson based Rushmore Academy on St. John's School in Houston, Texas, which Anderson attended. Many of Max's overachieving antics are loosely inspired by real clubs and events from their youth, though exaggerated for dramatic effect. Fact 2. Bill Murray worked for scale, just $9,000. At the time, Bill Murray was still best known for his big-budget comedies, but he was so drawn to Rushmore and Anderson's vision that he agreed to appear for the SAG minimum. He even paid out of pocket for a helicopter rental for one scene when Disney wouldn't cover it. Fact 3. Jason Schwartzman beat out thousands of hopefuls for his debut role. Schwartzman, just 17 at the time and with no prior acting experience, was cast after an extensive search that saw over 1,800 young actors audition. His eccentric charm, confidence, and deadpan delivery impressed Anderson and secured him the part of Max Fisher. Fact 4. The soundtrack was originally going to be all British invasion songs. Anderson initially planned to use only songs by the Kinks for the soundtrack, but the idea evolved to a wider range of British invasion artists like The Who, Cat Stevens, and the Rolling Stones. Still, the Kinks are prominently featured and help shape the film's nostalgic tone. Fact 5. The Vietnam play was a loving job at School Theater Productions. Max's elaborate stage production of Heaven and Hell, his take on a Vietnam War film, was meant to parody the over-the-top seriousness with which high schoolers approach drama club. The pyrotechnics, costumes, and ridiculous detail were inspired by the kinds of ambitious productions Anderson and Wilson remembered from school. The year was 1998. The Clinton-Lewinsky scandal and impeachment was all people were seeing on TV. Google was founded that September. Titanic cleaned house at the Oscars that year. And I was in the process of transitioning from Liberty University to Virginia Commonwealth University in a hastily made decision that was totally and completely for the best. Also at this time, a director was taking on his second studio picture. That up-and-coming auteur was Wes Anderson, and his unique visual style and play-like set design was just, at this point, getting on solid footing. College was a time of deep study and obsession for me, not in math, science, or literature, mind you, but in film. This was the time where anything labeled independent in the film world was necessary to ingest, analyze, and take notes on. Seriously, watching films on repeat with a notebook and a pencil was, at one point, my personal pastime. So naturally, when Wes Anderson's film Rushmore was released, I felt it my obligation to check it out. Never heard of the guy up until then, and to be fair, it was Bill Murray that was the draw for me, as I'm sure both Wes and the studio knew as well. What I witnessed, quite unexpectedly I might add, was simple yet profound, funny yet deep, and visually brisk and inspiring. Rushmore is, and has been, one of my top 10 films and is still my favorite Wes Anderson picture he's done. To be completely transparent with you, I stopped watching his movies after Moonrise Kingdom. I personally felt that his films were starting to become more about visuals than storytelling, and were mixing genres that weren't exactly for me. Visually, the guy has talent coming out of his ears though, and if you're looking for quirkiness in line with what Britain has provided us over several decades, he's got that in spades. In Wes Anderson's Rushmore, the tangled relationships between Max Fisher, Herman Bloom, and Rosemary Cross illustrate an unexpected truth about human connection, that broken hearts rather than isolated people can sometimes become the very grounds on which deep, redemptive relationships are built. When two people are hurting, grieving, lonely, or disappointed, their emotional wounds can create a strange form of empathy, a mirror of pain that allows them to see and understand each other in a way that others can't. Through its stylized storytelling, Rushmore delicately explores how shared emotional scars draw people together, offering an imperfect but powerful form of healing. Max Fisher is the embodiment of a heart simultaneously full of passion and riddled with insecurity. At 15, he's a precocious student at the prestigious Rushmore Academy, more invested in extracurricular theatrics than academic success. Beneath his bravado and oversized ambition, though, lies the pain of personal loss, the death of his mother, the shame of being the son of a barber among the elite, and the fear of not belonging. Max's heartbreak is not singular but multifaceted. Grief, class anxiety, and adolescent yearning, they all churn beneath his boy genius surface. Enter Herman Bloom, a wealthy industrialist equally burdened by disillusionment. Bloom's life is hollowed out by a failing marriage, disconnection from his twin sons, and a sense of having squandered his own potential. Despite their age difference, Max and Bloom recognize something familiar in one another, a frustration with their current lives, a longing to be seen, and a capacity for obsession. Their initial friendship is almost symbiotic, a shared refuge from the suffocating environments they inhabit. But it's their mutual infatuation with Rosemary Cross, a young first-grade teacher at Rushmore, that truly exposes the brokenness in both men. Rosemary, too, is grieving. Her husband died young, and her lingering sorrow permeates her gentle demeanor. She becomes a projection screen for Max's and Bloom's emotional needs. Max sees her as a romantic ideal, a muse who could elevate his adolescent sense of grandeur. Bloom views her as a possible escape from the emptiness of his suburban life. The resulting love triangle is both comic and tragic. It spirals into a series of sabotage and betrayal between Max and Bloom, but also lays bare their emotional wounds. It's through this process of mutual destruction that the characters begin to truly reckon with their pain. When Max is expelled from Rushmore and hits emotional rock bottom, he retreats into himself. But it's Rosemary, wounded in her own right, who gently pushes him to accept who he is, to understand that he can't force others to love him, and that pain is not something that can be bypassed through brilliance or charm. Bloom's journey is similar. His rivalry with Max reveals how deeply he's regressed into his adolescent pettiness, highlighting his need to confront the dissatisfaction in his life. It's not until he hits rock bottom, estranged from his family, rejected by Rosemary, that he begins to change. Eventually, Max and Bloom reconcile, not because either has gotten what they wanted romantically, but because they begin to recognize their shared humanity. Their hearts are still broken, but they are broken in ways that allow them to connect. And this is where Bill Murray shines in a role that would become his new go-to character arc moving forward. Think of it like a more sincere and truly broken Phil Connors from Groundhog Day. He tackles this arc wonderfully in Lost in Translation as well. But working with Murray can be a challenge for any director. Murray can be a little bit like chasing a ghost. Fitting considering his Ghostbusters fame. He's famously brilliant, unpredictable, and notoriously hard to pin down. Murray doesn't have a manager, agent, or publicist. Instead, he uses an unlisted 1-800 number to screen projects, which means even big-name directors often leave rambling voicemails into the void, hoping for a callback. On set, his behavior can swing from utterly charming to intensely aloof. While many co-stars and directors praise his spontaneity and genius, others have found him moody, stubborn, or simply MIA. His on-set clashes with some colleagues are legendary. Just ask Richard Dreyfuss or Harold Ramis. But for those who get him, like Wes Anderson and Sofia Coppola, he's a dream wrapped in a wild card. Back to Rushmore, though. What makes Rushmore especially poignant is that it does not offer easy resolutions. Rosemary Cross never becomes a romantic partner to either Max or Bloom, nor does she fully heal from her grief. Instead, she exists as a character who chooses to continue living with the loss, offering compassion rather than salvation. In the end, the healing that occurs is not about replacing pain with love, but about growing into a deeper awareness of oneself and others. By the film's final scene, Max is directing a play inspired by his own experiences. And all the central characters, Rosemary, Bloom, Max's father, are in attendance. It's a moment of quiet reconciliation, of people who've been hurt still choosing to show up for one another. It's not dramatic, but it's deeply human. Rushmore shows that broken hearts can be magnets. When people are honest about their wounds, those wounds can become points of connection rather than isolation. Max, Bloom, and Rosemary all carry their pain differently, but in confronting it, especially with each other, they find unlikely companionship and a kind of healing that's messy, incomplete, and beautiful. Their stories affirm that healing doesn't always mean being fixed. Sometimes it simply means being seen. This weekend, grab a seat in an uncomfortable plastic chair with a tiny desk attached to it, clap a couple of blackboard erasers together, and sharpen your pencils as you pop in Rushmore and give it another look. Or you can just enjoy it in the comfort of your living room too. That's totally an option here. Thank you for listening today. As always, watch films deeper, listen closer, and search for a deeper meaning than what's on the surface. I'll see you next time.